Look at the size of this thing. If you have just awakened from several years in a coma, Fuji GFX-50S is a medium format mirrorless digital camera, the most affordable so far. General rule is the more expensive the camera, the more it will be specialized. This is also the case with Fuji GFX, which is made to excel in certain types of photography: landscape, fine art, portraits, fashion, weddings to some extent, and product photos to name a few. This is where megapixels count, where you need perfect color reproduction and best possible dynamic range. Speed is not of the essence, therefore GFX shoots only 3 frames per second up to 8 RAW files and has rather slow autofocus with almost unusable focus tracking. Anyone complaining about it doesn't understand who this camera is for. For a bit less money you can buy Nikon D5 and Canon 1DX, which have gazillion focus points capable of tracking eagle on amphetamine and shoot at 15 frames per second with buffer deeper than Mariana Trench. Yet no one is complaining for having only 20 megapixels in these cameras. There is a tool for every job, and Fuji GFX is the camera for slow and methodical photography where image quality is ultimate goal. Compared with other medium format cameras, Fuji is quite compact. Pentax 645 has traditional SLR design and is 2 or 3 times the volume. Mirrorless can save enormous space compared to SLR design. It is possible to fit GFX and 2 or even 3 lenses in a small shoulder bag. Impressive. Still, this remains a fairly big camera. It is similar to typical DSLR, just with a bit different body element placements. It weighs 950 grams with the battery. Lenses are also not that small or light, from half a kilo onward. With 32 to 64 mm zoom and especially 120 mm macro, this is a big and heavy piece of gear. In weight, most similar to typical large DSLR with 24 to 70 f2.8 or 70 to 200 mm lens attached. This camera is fully weather resistant and can withstand rain or dust without issues. Fuji knows how to build them. All of the currently available lenses are also weather sealed. Tripod mount is in line with the lens. Battery and memory card compartments are on the sides of the camera, so you can use as big tripod plate as you wish and will still be able to access battery or memory card. Next strap is attached using these metal quick release lugs, and I don't actually like them. You see, they are held in place with this tiny bit of plastic, and if you lose it, if it falls in dirt or mud, or in some crevice on the floor, you are screwed, because it does not hold onto the camera without it. They also rotate and constantly get in the way of memory card compartment door or under my palm when holding a camera. Even more, it is almost impossible to remove plastic part when you have a strap in there, so it is not actually quick release. Anyway, this is one of the very few dislikes I have to say about the GFX. Grip is quite big and comfortable. I especially like generous protrusion at the back. Controls are simple and effective. All GF lenses have aperture ring around them, and top of the camera has dials for ISO and shutter speed. Combined with autofocus joystick, these are all the controls most users will ever need. If you prefer DSLR style aperture and shutter control with front and back dials, these are also available. Set the aperture dial in C position and shutter dial in T position, and there you have it. Exactly 10 buttons can be customized, and each of them can have one of 37 offered functions. More than plenty for anyone. Here's how I set them up in case anyone wonders. On FN1 I left exposure compensation. Front FN2 button is for auto ISO. FN3 on the thumb rest is for live view RGB histogram. FN4 activates autofocus just like I use it on my Canon DSLR, and I have also decoupled autofocus from half press shutter button, which now only locks exposure. FN6 has focus point size options, FN7 shutter mode, FN8 white balance, FN9 timer, which I often use for long exposures on a tripod, And finally, a rear dial press activates focus magnification. Quick menu, which is also fully customizable, is accessed by dedicated button on the thumb protrusion. Enough with the boring stuff, let's have a look at some photos. First, overall look of JPEG files is quite impressive. If for some reason you need or want JPEGs straight out of the camera, this is the camera to have. Thanks to lovely film simulations, colors are wonderful and level of details is astounding. Low ISO values have no trace of JPEG compression or noise reduction artifacts anywhere. RAW format is astounding in every sense. Colors, dynamic range and post-processing latitude is beyond Sony Alpha 7R Mark II and Nikon D800E, which until now I considered the best cameras in that regard. Take a look at this shot, which turned out way too underexposed by mistake. Bottom part of the image is all black and Adobe Camera Raw reports values of exactly 0. Exposure +5, shadows up and a few more tweaks and it can be used if needed. Okay, this is a bit extreme, but parts of images can regularly be this dark for landscape shots, and this level of dynamic range makes it possible to get desired results from single exposure. In this case I forced greens all the way up in black and white conversion without any artifacts introduced and getting a look which reminds on infrared shots. GFX is really nice and everything, but only when I started processing images is when I really started to appreciate what a medium format sensor can do. This is beyond what full-frame cameras can deliver, but sensor is not the only reason for high image quality. 3 lenses I used, 32-64, 63 and 120mm, are in a league of their own. I will make a separate video review for them, but I can tell you right away, these are the best lenses I ever used, excelling in every aspect. High ISO performance is similar to that of most full-frame cameras, or maybe even a bit behind some of them. It doesn't matter, since GFX is meant to be used in environments where photographer has control over light, or for long exposure landscape shots where tripod is a must-have and a low ISO will be used anyway. Mechanical shutter is not allowed. This is first electronic curtain. It is a bit quieter and there is also fully silent electronic shutter. At first I used electronic shutter a lot, but soon realized some of my shots look weird. Oh my god, this must be the worst case of rolling shutter I have ever seen. It takes some time to read all those pixels, and it appears I moved the camera before it was done reading sensor data more than once, since the bottom part of the image got significant blur. Also, electronic shutter is very prone to some artificial light sources. Be careful when and how you use it. After realizing this, I switched back to mechanical shutter for most of my shots. Most cameras on the market have low shutter speeds down to 30 seconds, and for longer exposure, wired remote control is needed. GFX goes by default up to 1 hour exposures in the camera. Excellent stuff for landscape photography, where long exposures are a rule rather than exception. Auto ISO control is identical to other Fuji cameras. There are 3 presets and each of them allows control over lowest and highest ISO value as well as lowest shutter speed. There is a choice of 117 or 425 focus points which cover almost corner to corner of the frame. Autofocus size can be adjusted from really small, which is suitable for critical focus in macro or portrait work, up to really big, which covers much of the frame. Focus point is easily reset to center with a single joystick press. Face or eye detection is available and you can even choose left or right eye. Interesting detail is when you engage face detection, light metering options are disabled and the camera will meter light on people's faces and ignore everything else in the frame. Wonderful stuff for portrait photography. Spot metering is by default linked with active focus point, but it doesn't need to be. You can unlink them in menu system. Focus speed varies with the lens used. It was faster with 32-64 lens than with the 63mm prime. In both cases it is still average at best. For styles of photography which this camera is made for, that is not an issue, but I kind of expected a bit snappier response. Manual focus is easy thanks to focus magnification and peaking. I am not sure why GFX doesn't have 4K video but 1080 at 30p only. It has microphone input, headphones output, peaking, both memory slots are UHS 2 compatible, and of course there is that huge medium format sensor. This could be a bomb if it did video as good as X-T2 has it. Interestingly, another reviewer on YouTube noticed GFX can play X-T2's 4K video files, so this might be an indication of things to come with some firmware update. As things are now, Full HD video looks okay, but so does the one from 10 times less expensive cameras. Video is definitely not the reason to buy this camera, but if you need to shoot a video here or there, it can be done. 3.2 inches LCD monitor has 2.36 million dots and perfect viewing angles. It is touch sensitive and supports multi-touch, but touch control is not enabled for all camera functions. It works for autofocus point selection, quick menu and playback, but is disabled in main menu, not sure why that is. For best sunlight visibility, brightness must be boosted all the way up. It is articulated 45 degrees down and 90 degrees up, but has a unique side tilt mechanism as seen on X-T2 camera, perfect for vertical images from weird angles. Status LCD at the top of the camera has 128 by 128 dot resolution and by default shows information in a negative, white numbers on black background. It is perfectly visible in all well-lit conditions. By pressing the button beside it, backlight is turned on and the screen transitions to positive style, black numbers on white background. Information layout is adjustable. Status LCD always stays on, even when the camera is turned off. Then it shows battery level and remaining shots on memory card. Removable electronic viewfinder is part of the retail package. It has 3.7 million dots and in terms of viewing experience is near the top of what is available today. I say near the top, not on the top, as I still find Panasonic GH5's EVF the best electronic viewfinder I ever saw. Very big, detailed, with high dynamic range and with fastest transition from LCD to EVF. All camera functions can be displayed in EVF, menus and playback included. When rotated in vertical orientation, all the camera shooting data also rotates to the bottom of the finder. It can show both luminance and RGB histogram at the same time. My favorite feature is optional clipping blinkies in live view. This is by far the best tool for exposed to the right technique I ever saw, and going back to my Canon DSLR after using Fuji GFX made Canon feel antiquated. Speed of transition from LCD to EVF is average. This is not a camera that would require very fast response, but nonetheless it is a bit slow, especially when compared with previously mentioned Panasonic GH5. Battery life strongly depends on usage pattern. Worst I got is around 250 shots, but that happened when used for long exposures, mostly between 15 seconds and 2 minutes. In other words, camera spent a lot of time recording images. In normal use I got around 400 shots, with as much as 500 or 600 if not using LCD a lot. Battery is recharged in approximately 3 hours using supplied external charger. GFX has twin SD memory card slots, both of which support UHS 2 speeds. Various recording patterns are available, different file formats on each card, backup, separate still image and video on different cards, and so on. GFX has all the connectors you might want: USB 3.0, micro HDMI, 3.5mm microphone input and monitoring headphones output, wired remote control connector, as well as Wi-Fi capability. Main menu is visually simple, but I kind of got lost a few times. Once you enter subtabs, it is easy to forget where you are in relation to main menu items. Also, some items are a bit illogically placed, like format option, which is under user settings and not in data save tab. It is probably just a matter of getting used to it. One thing requires a bit of attention though, at least until you get used to the camera. Once you select an image to delete it, camera remains in delete mode until you press back button. Any further press on OK button will delete an image that is currently displayed. Overall, I am safe to say Fuji GFX feels like a DSLR regarding weight and size, like a few years old mirrorless in terms of autofocus speed, and unlike anything so far in terms of image quality. This really is the camera to have for best image quality. Medium format sensor is great for shallow depth of field without resorting to larger than f2.8 apertures, and Fuji ergonomics is wonderful. At the same time, it will fit in a small camera bag, first time for a medium format. It is a bit slow in some regards, autofocus, burst rate and EVF switching time, but I don't see that as a problem as it was made and will be used in photography styles that are slow by nature, studio work and landscapes. Of course, there is the matter of pricing. As much as it is the most affordable medium format on the market, $6,500 or 7,000 euros here in my part of the world is still a pretty high amount to pay, and that is body only. Lens or two will set you back further 2 or 3 grand, so ultimately I see this camera mostly in hands of working professionals. If you think you can earn value of this camera in up to 6 months, it might be what you need. For amateur users who are lucky enough and can afford it, go for it, but be sure you know why you're buying it. This camera requires an experienced photographer to make the best out of it. That's all for this review. If you have a question, feel free to ask me in the comment section below. Subscribe to my channel for updates, and if you want to support my work, buy stuff on Amazon using my affiliate links below the video. You will not pay any more than otherwise, but I will get a small percentage from every purchase. Thanks for watching.